Okay, so let's go over how to do some 8th grade math. In case you forgot or have never seen it, this is just questions for today. So first one, convert -28 1/2 to a decimal. So if you don't know how to convert a fraction to a decimal, and you don't have a calculator handy, remember it's top in, bottom out. Add a decimal, a couple of zeros, and you can get it's just 0.5. 5 times 2 is 10, nothing left over. Once you have the decimal, you just attach it back to the integer part of it. So that would be -28.5. Okay. I think the answer choices are different on the online version. Whatever. Okay, so let's see. ABC similar to DEF, which proportion must be true? So anytime I get a question like this where it gives me different proportions, I just ignore that for now, because that seems like more work than it's worth to actually look at that. I'm going to make my own proportion. So I'm just going to pick two corresponding parts. So I see 10 corresponds with n. So I can make that one ratio. And then I see 12 corresponds to 6. Okay, so there's proportion. And then I'm still not looking at my answers. I know that if I wanted to solve this proportion, I would need to cross multiply 10 and 6. So when I'm looking at my answers, even if it doesn't look like this, as long as 10 and 6 are diagonal to each other and 12 is the third number, I know I'm good. So I look, and we actually have answer choice C. Looks exactly like that. Let's make sure nothing else. Let's see, 6 times 12. 10 times 12, 12 times 10. All right, there you go. So the only answer that makes sense there is C. Let's see, inequality shown. Which value of x makes the inequality true? So we have a percent and a fraction, so I'd make both those into a decimal. Decimal we talked about before. You can do top end, bottom out. 1/4 is 1/4 is 0.25. Remember with percent, if you want to go percent to decimal, you can remember Dr. Pepper. So you take that decimal point. To make a decimal, it goes 2 places to the left. So go 1, 2. So it's going to be 0.02. So we're just looking for some decimal between 0.02 and 0.25. So this will be 0.30. That's not between. 1/3 is 0.33 repeating. That's not in between. The square root of 0.2. I don't know what that is. I'm going to take out my calculator. So 0.2, that's 0.4 or 0.45. We round it 0.45. So that's not it. The only one left is 0.03, and we can see 3 cents is more than 2 cents, but less than 25 cents. And that just makes sense. Number 4, which one is written in order from least to greatest? And then bonus question, is that ascending or descending? So if you're going from little to big, that's ascending. Look at my answer choices. It uses the same numbers for each one. So I can convert all these to decimals. So I know I've got 0.83. 7/8 is 0.88 if we round it to 2 decimal places. 4/5 is 0.80. And 75%, remember we said we go 2 to the left, is 0.75. So the smallest of those 4 numbers is 0.75. So our list should start with 75%. So that eliminates A. The next biggest is 0.80, which was 4/5, which is answer choice C. So that looks good. The next one up, 0.83, and then 7/8. All right. Number 5. Sounds weird because either I'm totally wrong or they made a mistake on the key, because they say rational numbers are a subset of rational, and it told me that the answer was true. And according to this picture, if this picture was correct, that would be true. The problem is that this picture doesn't make any sense, because you can't have an irrational number that is also a rational number, like by definition. A number is either rational or irrational. So what this should really look like is you should have one set of rational numbers and one set of irrational numbers. So these two are non-overlapping. You have to pick one or the other. So this is a big old false. Unless it was meant to say irrational numbers are a subset of real numbers, because that would be true. But then what would the universe be? I don't know. Put false. Number 6, which point on the number line best represents the location of 96.04? Okay, so you could either take a calculator out, or you could use your big brain. So 10 is the square root of 100, or the square root of 100 is 10. The square root that gives us 11 is 121, and the square root that gives us 12 is 144. And then we just want to place the square root of 96.04 somewhere on that line. So it's not between 100 and 121. It's definitely not between 121 and 144, which means it's got to be far to the left here, which is just point M. If you don't believe me, we get our calculator back out. Clear. So 96.04 square root. It's 9.8, which is definitely a little bit less than 10. Okay. All right, go away, calculator. Let's see. Let's do this one. I've been going left to right. Plus, this is probably one we need the most help with. Write the number in scientific notation. So scientific notation is, I know I'm skipping questions. It does not look like one of those. It's a way of writing a number that always starts with something between 1 and 10, and then is multiplied by some factor of 10. Okay? So when we say 980, we want to rewrite that as a number between 1 and 10. So you think, where can I put a decimal point in 980 that is between 1 and 10? So I can't put it here, right? That's 980. I can't put it there. That's 98. But I can put it right there. So that gives us 9.8. And then it's always times 10 to some power. And that power is just how many times you had to move the decimal place. So since it started at the end of the number, we moved it back 1, 2 times. So you get 9.8 times 10 to the second power. And if you want to check that, you can actually type it into your calculator. So you can type, why are they 9.8? Oh, that's weird. Okay, 9.8 times 10 squared is 980, and that's the number that we started. Okay, so it's got to start with something between 1 and 10, then it's always multiplied by 10, and then however many times you move the decimal, that's your exponent. Okay, so we come down to this one. How do we write 90 million? So same idea. Here's where the decimal started. We want to move it so that it's between 1 and 10. So they said, like on answer A and B, they said put it here, but 0.9 is not between 1 and 10. So that cannot be scientific notation. So it has to be 9. It's got to be 9 times 10. And then since it started here, we just count, and you can count each one, or if you have the commas here, remember commas are every 3 digits. So you can say this is 3, this is 6, and then one more place is 7. So we have 9 times 10 to the 7th power. Okay. All right, let's see what else we got. 2 numbers are shown on the number line. Which value is not between those 2? All right. Well, pi is 3.14, and the square root of 49 is 7. So we want to know which of these numbers is not between those 2. So 2 pi, 2 times 3.14 is 6.28, and that's definitely between 3 and 7. Square root of 20, I don't know what that is, so I'm going to skip it for now. The square root of 9 is 3. Oh, look at that. 3 is going to be over here, smaller than 3.14. That looks good. 5, not 5. So the only one it could be is the square root of 20. but that's like 4 point something. So here is our best answer. Okay, almost there. Who had the fastest time? Okay, this one, if you're not in athletics, might throw you off. Remember when we say fastest time? That means the least time. The fastest person has the shortest amount of time. So who was the quickest? So they all start with 16, so it just matters the decimals. So 1/5 is, this would be 16.2 or 16.20. This is already 16.18. 16¼ would be 16.25, and this would be 16.23. Which of those is the least? That would be our good friend Enrique. And the last one, you've actually been doing this one. There's no reason why we can't get this one right. +4 to both sides. So -4x equals 28. Divide both sides by -4. And we get x is -7. We could check that. -7 times -4 is 28. 28 minus 4 is 24. To make sure when we grid this, since it gives us a decimal point, that 7 has to go right to the left of it. Since it's negative, you do have to bubble in the negative sign. If it was positive, that would be optional. You can bubble the positive, but you don't have to. All right, there you go. 8th grade math. Not too bad. And we'll keep practicing that next week.